Tra-la-la! It is about time that Captain Underpants got a full-length theatrical movie. After the 10th book ended the series on a high note, fans were wondering if we were ever to see the waist-banded warrior ever again, whether it be a series or even a movie. But DreamWorks acquired the rights to the books and created a spectacular animated adventure with a really nice aesthetic. Fun fact, this is also the last DreamWorks animated movie released by 20th Century Fox before the distribution rights were transferred to Universal Pictures after Comcast and NBC Universal acquired them in 2016. Anyways, this is a very lively adaptation of the classic Captain Underpants books. Hardcore fans will be able to spot every Easter egg in this movie and manage to do that right, whilst also at the same time being a rare example of toilet humour done right, since it was essential to the series after all. It was also a major improvement compared to DreamWorks' previous and similar movie, The Boss Baby, which is really bizarre to think how that got an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Feature instead of this, but I digress. So, what makes such a beloved source material come straight to life in film? How does it stay loyal to its classic series? And why was it essential to bring in DreamWorks back to its classic routine? In today's movie review, I'll be talking about the 2017 animated movie Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. Snap those fingers and let's dive straight into it. Just don't let any water get in the way. Starting off with the high points, this movie's animation is extremely artistic and looks impressive with a budget of only $38 million. It stays extremely faithful to Dave Pilkey's art style, which his books had, in addition to having multiple approaches that made reading them a lot of fun. Those being the hand-drawn 2D animated segments, which were also used as a reference for the film's comic book aesthetic, sock puppets, which are also used as a reference to this movie's story that keeps it moving forward, and the flip-o-rama segments also make an appearance. In the books, they are used as a way to give more of a feeling to the ongoing action, but in the films, they use this style of the pages and also add their own sound effects, therefore making the approach so rewarding and a treat for those who have made it this far into the story. It was one of the first of its kind to use a different animation style for the book series, so it looks great and at the same time, unique. But Captain Underpants walked so that Spider-Verse could fly. In this instance, it's more of a comic book feel than some of the earlier movies with a similar approach before 2018 arrived, so for that reason, this movie may have been a game changer if its budget was bigger. All the characters, especially the development that they were given in the story, are very likable, especially the lead characters and the main antagonist, all staying exactly how they felt and played in the books. George and Harold show the genuine message of friendship and how it grows between them. They play prank after prank at their elementary school, and Mr. Krupp is annoyed and consistently sick of it, so he plans to separate them into different classes to break their friendship. But it doesn't matter, since no matter how far you are, you still remember each other and therefore remain best friends. I also like what they did with Mr. Krupp in this film because he's not just a grouchy old principal like in the books, he's actually relatable and also has somewhat of a heart, unlike in the books where he's always yelling at his students. And also Professor P, whom I like to call Tippy Tingle Trousers from the books, is decently well written, who wants to get rid of laughter since his name was getting made fun of in the past, which you can definitely see. Also, the voice acting for all of them, Kevin Hart, Thomas Middleditch, Ed Helms, and Nick Kroll, is really great, matching their character with voice talents. With its clever writing also comes some very witty humour that works like a charm. This is also a rare example of toilet humour done correctly. Unlike movies that use it as an excuse to get a few giggles out of the children, this movie uses the same techniques from its books and is essentially the spirit that birthed them. The meta commentary is something that parents can relate to, but the humour still keeps on giving for the kids, therefore making it an all ages movie. There's one scene in particular that is an instant scene stealer where Captain Underpants, disguised as the school's principal, Mr. Krupp, performs a musical stage performance with the class of students using whoopee cushions and other types of small potty humour to add the final touches to the song. There are also some very easy to miss pop culture references, like when the reviews come in, one of which shows it being certified fresh on rotten potatoes, as a reference to rotten tomatoes. It also uses pop culture as a way to help remind viewers that what Captain Underpants is based on, like the underpants signal on the moon on the posters, a reference to Batman, and Superman with the cape and one-liners, even the character. The humour is smartly written for all viewers. Not only is the movie a massive love letter for fans of the beloved source material, but it also stays extremely faithful to the books themselves, maintaining all the elements that made those books it was based on so beloved and adding them in a feature-length film. It adapts from the first 4 books and has hidden Easter eggs that only the truest fans would truly get. It retains Captain Underpants' origin story very well, being based on a popular comic book character created by George and Harold, and they are constantly annoyed with how painfully treated they are by their principal, Mr. Krupp. So they use a hypnotic ring that allows them to turn Krupp into anything they want when they snap their fingers, this being Captain Underpants. Eventually, you'll learn that he turns back into Mr. Krupp when water is splashed on his face. As someone who recently read the books a little while ago, I had plenty to study going into the movie. It's got similar levels of energy to what you get out of reading the series, having that feeling of getting so much out of the characters and easily learning the story in such idiotic ways. Also, like the books, George and Harold are fully aware that this is just all a movie act, and they predict to us, viewers, what happens next, which brings the Flip-O-Rama segment to fruition. It's such a great take and keeps you engaged, as it even uses original ideas to a larger extent. Lastly, this movie has a very heartfelt core, making the characters more likable and more engaging. It has themes and messages such as the power of friendship and teamwork, creativity and imagination in childhood form, empathy and perspective in initially harsh people like Mr. Krupp, and the idea of children being able to challenge the school system through creative, harmless uprising. It teaches childhood memories very well and how one bonds with another, such as how the movie does the origin story of George with an Afro hairstyle vibe, and Harold becoming immediate best friends after both experiencing big laughter at kindergarten, learning about the solar system, and getting to Uranus being called a gas giant, with both of its name and surrounding environment being very fitting, using the joke to a larger extent. Both kids aren't popular just because they are troublemakers. They are creative and inspire loads of other kids around them with their artsy vibe, sharing the imagination that makes their classmates charmed, even if the school system they live in is rigged, thanks to Mr. Krupp. But with his spot being taken over by his alter ego, Captain Underpants, imagination can run through a kid's mind, and that means that anyone can be happy. It perfectly shows how schools need at least one troublemaker to lighten the mood on an average day of school. Despite how great this movie is, it isn't without a minor flaw that often feels like a recurrent issue rather than a mindless act. That being said, the pacing is extremely over the top. Thanks to its shorter runtime of an hour and a half, and how brisk its animation is, the pacing does go way too fast, not really explaining what the story is trying to unfold, instead having to rely on its classic book series to stand out. The editing, as I'm sure you can see in the film, is overwhelming, not allowing quieter and more serious as well as emotional moments to squeeze into its gaps. The film could have benefited a lot more if it were a bit longer and had a lot more original ideas that make it stand out rather than stealing elements from the books, but as it's made, it's still a very decent attempt at bringing the waistbanded warrior onto the big screen. Even a mindless story like this movie just helps make it more entertaining like other DreamWorks movies. Captain Underpants, the first epic movie is, well, they really weren't kidding. This is quite an epic movie. that starts slow but goes at a really fast rate of fire that is all over before it begins. The animation is clean as heck, with many achievements obtained in its visual style. The characters are really well written, developed as well, with plenty of charm. The humour is clever and witty, which actually does toilet humour correctly. It stays very faithful to the books without much to be said, and it has a very heartfelt core that can resonate with audiences. The pacing, however, is way too quick, and while I do like fast-paced movies, this one simply doesn't stop for a good second, making the lasting energy run out of steam fast. Despite the issues, this is all great fun, and I'm already a massive fan of Captain Underpants, as I've read all the books, so this was almost new to me back when the film was about to be released in theatres. They were always part of my childhood, reading them online, and in addition to getting an opportunity to read them again occasionally at school, being one of the first things to do before official lessons had begun, fitting for their setting. Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, will delight kids and give plenty of its classic source material to many hardcore fans who are finally looking for the grand return of this memorable title character, who I hope in the future has many more cinematic adventures that take more from its books. Fast-paced, funny, and gorgeously animated, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, brings an iconic book series instantly to life on screen and doesn't drive any wedges between its age group. My final score for this DreamWorks adventure is a 9 out of 10 and a grade A. Almost a perfect movie from the animation company. This definitely stood out at the time as one of the better movies we've seen in years, following great fatigue from original ideas. Even for just one movie. I'm still waiting to this day for another Captain Underpants movie, as while DreamWorks thinks the film didn't work out as much as they thought, I think there could have been so much more to be told. With plenty of spin-offs and TV series coming out now and then, I only hope the future is bright for Captain Underpants. But with that being said, leave a like on this video if you guys did enjoy my review on Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. And also remember to subscribe if you're new and hit that bell icon to see more content on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all later. Take care of yourselves.